Power is everywhere, in friendships, at work, in business, in politics, even in ordinary conversations. Sometimes the person with the most power isn't the richest person in the room, or the loudest, or the smartest. It's the person who understands people, the person who knows when to speak, when to stay silent, when to step forward, and when to walk away. And that's exactly why the 48 Laws of Power became one of the most discussed books about strategy, influence, and human behavior. Hello, my amazing students. My name is Clara, and today we're going to learn English through one of the most controversial books about power ever written. But we're going to do something important. We're not going to simply repeat all 48 laws one after another. And we're definitely not going to treat every law as advice you should blindly follow. Instead, we'll explore the biggest ideas behind the book. We'll look at the stories, patterns, and lessons Robert Greene uses to explain how power works. We'll also think critically about those lessons. When can understanding power protect you? When can ambition become dangerous? Why do people lose influence because of their ego? Why is reputation so powerful? And how can understanding human behavior help you recognize manipulation instead of becoming a victim of it? While listening, you'll improve your English vocabulary, your listening comprehension, your ability to understand complex ideas, and your confidence with natural English. So listen carefully until the end, because the final lesson will bring everything together and answer perhaps the most important question of this episode. Is becoming powerful really the goal, or is understanding power the real advantage? We'll explore the book through 5 lessons. Lesson number 1, why power begins with understanding people. Lesson number 2, reputation, attention, and the way others see you. Lesson number 3, why strategy, patience, and self-control matter. Lesson number 4, the dangerous side of power and manipulation. And finally, lesson number 5, the greatest lessons we can take from the 48 Laws of Power. By the end of this episode, you won't simply know more about a famous book. You'll understand useful English expressions, important ideas about human behavior, and why learning to recognize power dynamics can help you make wiser decisions in everyday life. So let's begin. Lesson number 1, why power begins with understanding people. Before we start, can I ask you one question? A year from now, will your English be better than it is today? Or will you still be saying, I'll start next week? The truth is, most people don't fail because English is difficult. They fail because they never truly commit to it. That's why, for a limited time, I've reduced the price of the Native Flow English coaching experience to just $5. Not because it's worth only $5, but because I don't want money to be the reason you never start. For less than the price of a coffee, you can begin building a skill that can stay with you for the rest of your life. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Click the link in the description. Join us today, and I'll see you inside. Now, let's begin today's lesson. Most people misunderstand power. They think power means having money, a high position, a famous name, or the ability to control other people. But one of the central ideas we can take from the 48 Laws of Power is much simpler. Power begins with understanding human behavior. Think about everyday life. Have you ever met someone who was extremely intelligent, but constantly created problems for themselves? They said the wrong thing at the wrong moment. They trusted people too quickly. They allowed anger to control their decisions, or they underestimated how important other people's emotions were. Intelligence alone wasn't enough, because understanding facts and understanding people are two completely different skills. Imagine you start a new job. You have excellent ideas. You want to prove yourself. So during your first meeting, you immediately criticize the old methods. You explain why your ideas are better. Maybe you're correct. But what happens? Your manager feels challenged. Your coworkers become defensive. People stop listening to your ideas. Not because your ideas are bad, but because you ignored human nature. This is where understanding power becomes useful. Before trying to impress people, observe them. Who makes the decisions? Who influences the group? What does your manager care about? What makes your coworkers feel respected? What creates conflict? Observation gives you information, and information helps you make better decisions. Now here's another important lesson. People don't always say exactly what they think. Someone may smile while feeling jealous. Someone may compliment you while secretly competing with you. Someone may promise support, then disappear when you need them. This doesn't mean you should become suspicious of everyone. It means you should pay attention to behavior, not only words. Imagine someone repeatedly tells you, "You can always depend on me." But every time you need help, they have an excuse. Which should you trust? The promise or the pattern? Usually, the pattern tells you more. Now let's talk about emotions. Anger can make you say too much. Excitement can make you promise too much. Fear can make you give up too early. And ego can make you enter battles you never needed to fight. That's why self-control is closely connected to power. Imagine someone insults you in front of other people. Your first reaction may be to attack them immediately. But before responding, ask yourself, what will happen if I react emotionally? Is this argument worth my attention? Will responding improve the situation or make it worse? Sometimes the strongest response is speaking clearly. Sometimes it's waiting. And sometimes it's refusing to participate in a useless conflict. Another important idea is learning to see situations from other people's perspectives. If you want someone to support your idea, don't only explain why it benefits you. Ask, why would this matter to them? Imagine asking a coworker for help. You could say, please help me because I have too much work. Or you could explain, if we finish this together today, we'll both be ready for tomorrow's meeting. The second approach recognizes the other person's interests, and that's an important communication skill. Understanding people isn't about controlling them. It's about recognizing that everyone has motivations, insecurities, ambitions, and emotions. The better you understand those forces, the less likely you are to walk blindly into difficult situations. So remember the main lesson. Before you try to influence a room, understand the room. Before you trust someone's promises, observe their behavior. Before you react emotionally, consider the consequences. And before you ask someone to support you, try to understand what matters to them, because power doesn't begin when you control other people. It begins when you understand people well enough to make wiser decisions and control your own behavior. Lesson number 2, reputation, attention, and the way others see you. You walk into a room. Nobody knows you personally. Nobody has spoken to you yet, but some people already have an opinion about you. Why? Because they heard your name. They heard something about your work, your behavior, your success, or your mistakes. This is reputation. And one of the strongest ideas in the 48 Laws of Power is that reputation can influence people before you even speak. Think about two businesses. The first company is known for keeping its promises. Customers trust it. Employees respect it. The second company has a history of disappointing people. Even if both companies offer the same product, which one would you choose? Probably the first. That's the power of reputation. It creates expectations, and expectations influence decisions. Now imagine you start a new job. You arrive late every day. You make excuses. You promise to finish tasks, but you rarely finish them on time. After a few months, people begin seeing you as unreliable. Then one day, you have a brilliant idea. But nobody takes you seriously. Why? Not because the idea is bad, because your reputation speaks before you do. That's why building a strong reputation takes time. Small actions matter. Keeping your promises, doing good work, treating people with respect, taking responsibility when you make mistakes. These actions may seem ordinary, but repeated behavior becomes your reputation. Now here's another important lesson. Protecting your reputation doesn't mean pretending to be perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. The real question is, what do you do after making one? Imagine you make an important mistake at work. You could blame someone else, hide the problem, or create an excuse. Maybe that protects you for one day. But if people discover the truth, the damage becomes much greater. A better response might be, I made a mistake. Here's what happened, and here's how I'm going to fix it. That sentence shows responsibility, and sometimes taking responsibility can strengthen people's trust in you. Now let's talk about attention. The book often explores the importance of being noticed, because if nobody knows your work exists, your opportunities may remain limited. But there's an important difference between meaningful attention and desperately asking people to look at you. Imagine two people. The first constantly talks about how talented they are. They interrupt conversations. They exaggerate their achievements. They need to be the center of attention. The second person creates excellent work, shares useful ideas, speaks when they have something valuable to say, and allows their results to attract attention. Which person earns more respect? Usually, the second. Attention is most powerful when it's connected to value. Now think about social media. Millions of people compete for attention every day. Some create controversy, some exaggerate, some pretend to live perfect lives. They may receive attention, but attention without trust can disappear quickly. A strong reputation lasts longer. Now here's another useful lesson. Don't allow one emotional moment to destroy years of good work. A careless message, an angry public reaction, an unnecessary argument, one bad decision can travel much farther than you expect. Before reacting, ask yourself, will I still be comfortable with this decision tomorrow? That's a useful question in business, relationships, and everyday communication. So remember, your reputation is built through repeated behavior. Keep your promises. Let your actions support your words. Take responsibility for mistakes. Create value before demanding attention. And don't sacrifice long-term respect for a few moments of emotional satisfaction, because people may forget many things you say, but they often remember how consistently you behave, and over time, that consistency becomes part of your influence. Lesson number 3, why strategy, patience, and self-control matter. Most people want results immediately. They want success now, recognition now, influence now. But one of the biggest ideas we can learn from the 48 laws of power is that acting too quickly can destroy opportunities. Sometimes, the best move is to wait. Imagine you're in a meeting. Someone criticizes your idea. You immediately become angry. You interrupt them. You defend yourself emotionally, and the conversation becomes an argument. Even if your original idea was good, people may now remember your reaction more than your idea. A strategic person behaves differently. They listen, they ask questions, they understand the criticism. Then they decide whether responding is even necessary. That's self-control. And self-control gives you something valuable, time to think. Now let's talk about planning. Many people focus only on the next step. They ask, what should I do now? But strategic thinking asks another question. What could happen after I do this? Imagine you accept a new job because the salary is higher. That sounds like a good decision. But what about the working conditions? The opportunities to grow? The people you'll work with? The skills you'll develop? A decision can look attractive today, but create problems tomorrow. That's why thinking ahead matters. Before making an important move, consider the possible consequences. Now here's another lesson. Don't reveal every plan too early. Imagine you have a great business idea. You're excited, so you tell everyone. You explain every detail. You talk about what you're going to build. But months pass, and you still haven't started. Sometimes talking about a goal can feel like progress, even when no real progress has happened. A better strategy is simple. Work first. Let your results speak later. This doesn't mean you should become secretive about everything. It means understanding that not every idea needs an audience before it's ready. Now, let's talk about timing. The right action at the wrong time can still fail. Imagine asking your manager for an important favor when they're angry, busy, and dealing with a serious problem. Your request might be reasonable, but your timing is terrible. Waiting for a better moment could completely change the result. Strategic people pay attention to timing. They observe before acting. Now here's something else. Choose your battles carefully. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every disagreement needs to become an argument. And not every person who challenges you needs to become your enemy. Sometimes people waste enormous amounts of energy trying to win small battles, while forgetting their larger goals. Before entering a conflict, ask, what do I actually gain by winning this? If the answer is nothing important, maybe the battle isn't worth fighting. Patience also matters when progress feels slow. Building skills, creating a career, earning trust, developing a strong reputation. These things take time. Trying to force results can lead to poor decisions. So remember, think beyond your next move. Consider the consequences. Don't allow emotions to make decisions for you. Pay attention to timing. Work quietly when necessary. And choose your battles carefully. Because strategy isn't about controlling every situation. It's about seeing more clearly. waiting when necessary, and acting when the moment is right. Lesson number 4, the dangerous side of power and manipulation. Power can protect you. Understanding people can help you make better decisions. Strategy can prevent unnecessary mistakes. But power also has a dangerous side, and this is where the 48 laws of power becomes controversial. Some ideas in the book describe deception, manipulation, using people's weaknesses, creating dependence, and treating relationships as strategic games. Understanding these behaviors can be useful, but using every strategy blindly can destroy trust, relationships, and eventually, your reputation. Imagine someone who sees every friendship as an opportunity. They only help people when they expect something in return. They give compliments to gain influence. They pretend to care, but they're always calculating. At first, this person may appear successful. They may convince people to trust them. They may even gain temporary power. But eventually, patterns become visible. People begin asking, why does this person only contact me when they need something? Trust disappears. And once trust is gone, influence becomes much harder to maintain. Now here's an important lesson. Understanding manipulation doesn't mean becoming manipulative. It means learning to recognize warning signs. For example, someone constantly makes you feel guilty when you say no. They pressure you to make decisions quickly. They hide important information. They use compliments before asking for favors. They try to isolate you from people who disagree with them. One behavior alone doesn't always prove manipulation, but repeated patterns deserve attention. This is why awareness matters. Now let's talk about fear. Some people believe the best way to become powerful is to make others afraid of them. Fear can create obedience, but obedience isn't the same as loyalty. Imagine a manager who controls employees through threats. People may follow instructions, but only because they're afraid. The moment that manager loses authority, those relationships may disappear. Respect works differently. People willingly cooperate with someone they trust. That's usually much stronger over time. Now here's another danger. Power can change the way people see themselves. The more influence someone gains, the easier it can become to stop listening. They begin believing they're always right. They surround themselves with people who agree with everything they say, and eventually, they lose contact with reality. That's why honest feedback is valuable. You need people who can respectfully tell you, I think you're making a mistake. Not only people who say, you're absolutely right. Now let's think about revenge. When someone hurts us, we may want to hurt them back, but revenge can keep you emotionally connected to the person who harmed you. You spend time thinking about them, planning against them, allowing them to control your attention. Sometimes, walking away is more powerful than continuing the conflict. Now here's the biggest lesson from this section. Power without principles can become dangerous. If every relationship becomes a game, you may gain influence while losing something more valuable. Trust, peace, real friendships, and self-respect. So read books about power critically. Ask questions. What can this idea teach me about human behavior? How can I recognize this strategy when someone uses it against me? What could happen if I use this idea without considering the consequences? Understanding power can make you wiser, but blindly chasing power can make you lose sight of why you wanted it in the first place. And that brings us to the final lesson. What should we actually take from the 48 laws of power? Should we follow the laws, reject them, or use the book as a way to better understand people, strategy, and ourselves? That's exactly what we'll explore next. Lesson number 5, the greatest lessons we can take from the 48 laws of power. After exploring power, reputation, strategy, self-control, and manipulation, we arrive at the most important question. What should we actually learn from this book? Should you follow all 48 laws? No. Some ideas may help you understand human behavior. Others should make you think carefully about the kind of person you want to become. Perhaps the greatest value of the 48 laws of power is awareness. Once you understand how power can work, you begin noticing things you didn't notice before. You recognize when someone is trying to provoke an emotional reaction. You understand why reputation can influence opportunities. You notice when someone uses flattery to gain something from you. You become more careful about trusting words without observing behavior. And you start thinking about consequences before making decisions. That's useful knowledge. But knowledge alone isn't wisdom. Wisdom is knowing how to use what you've learned. Imagine someone insults you. You understand that reacting emotionally could make the situation worse. So you pause, you think. Then you choose the response that protects your dignity and your long-term interests. That's self-control. Now imagine someone tries to manipulate you. Instead of immediately attacking them, you recognize the pattern. You ask questions. You create boundaries. You refuse to make a rush decision. That's awareness. Now imagine you want more influence at work. Instead of trying to control everyone, you become reliable. You improve your skills. You understand what people need. You communicate clearly. You create value. Over time, people begin trusting your judgment. That's influence built through respect. And honestly, that's much stronger than influence built through fear. Another important lesson is knowing when to walk away. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every person needs to understand you. Sometimes, protecting your attention is more valuable than winning an argument. The book also reminds us to think beyond appearances. People can hide their intentions. Success can create enemies. Attention can disappear quickly. And the people who praise you today may not always support you tomorrow. But this doesn't mean you should live in fear or distrust everyone. It means you should stay observant. Trust slowly, watch patterns, listen carefully, and learn from experience. So what is real power? Maybe real power is not controlling other people. Maybe it's controlling your own emotions when someone tries to provoke you. Knowing your value without constantly demanding attention. Being patient when everyone else is rushing. Recognizing manipulation without becoming manipulative yourself. Building a reputation that makes people trust your actions. And having the confidence to walk away from situations that aren't worth your time. That's a kind of power you can use without destroying yourself or the people around you. So if you read the 48 Laws of Power, don't ask only, how can I become more powerful? Ask, What does this book teach me about people? What does it teach me about my own weaknesses? Which ideas should I understand without copying? And what kind of influence do I actually want to have? Because understanding power can protect you. Strategy can help you make wiser decisions. Self-control can prevent unnecessary mistakes. But character determines what you do with everything you've learned. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, the goal isn't to become the most feared person in the room. The goal is to understand the room, understand yourself, and make decisions you won't regret later. Keep learning. Keep thinking critically. And never confuse having power with having wisdom.